Well, outlaws are not criminals by trade, and you know they follow their own set of rules and morals, and it's uh, there's some outlaw bike clubs around. Back in the old days, they didn't have rules; they had a morality, and you followed that morality, and if you didn't, it was the unwritten rules that got you in a jam. You got your ass kicked, or worse. But being an outlaw, you don't have to ride a motorcycle. You don't have to let your hair grow long. You have to follow your own vision, your own dream. It's I talk about Jesse James, Billy the Kid, John Dillinger. I could also talk about Einstein and people on the other end of the spectrum. Those guys were outlaws too. I mean, people told him he was crazy, and that's the big difference. It's living by your own standards, living by your own set of rules, and adhering to that, not changing them, because, I want to do this or I want to do that, so I'm going to change it around. Certainly you bend and change with the times, but you don't do it to benefit you for some sort of personal greed or gain. To me, that's the difference. An outlaw doesn't set out to be a criminal. Sometimes they're pushed into criminality by circumstance, and do I justify it? I'm not going to justify it. I'm not going to apologize for it. It is what it is.
Why do you support the Olympics? Why do you think the Olympics are a good idea?
Everyone throughout the world with different ideals and lifestyles, they get together and compete. And of course, we're not in the mainstream society, so I think we kind of fall into that, different people getting together.
It's interesting. Statements I made starting in the early 80s. That's when I first started doing interviews representing the Hells Angels. I would say these antics law enforcement would pull from time to time. And don't misinterpret what I'm saying. There's a lot of good cops out there. Being a police officer is a dangerous job. And there are a lot of police that I have the utmost respect for. But there are some guys out there that somehow take the law into their own hands. They think they're the keeper of the flame, if you will. And, things I would talk about years ago, people would kind of look at me like, really? And now people just go, yeah, I've been saying that for years, And, I'll give you a perfect example. When we carried the torch in the 1984 Olympics, we wouldn't have even gotten involved in that if the ATF hadn't started making accusations that we were going to supply weapons to terrorists. And, I started getting calls from the merchants in Ventura. I don't think they realized we were very integrated into the community. And, I had businessmen call me, hey, George, the ATF just left here, man. They're saying some really cavalier things.
A judge's order authorized the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to take weapons, ammunition, clothing, and books. ATF agents were also looking for a member with a felony record who was carrying a gun while defending the clubhouse last week. A live grenade was thrown into the clubhouse, causing minor damage. Hells Angels spokesman George Christie believes authorities used that incident to justify today's raid.
Yes, they're definitely watching us. They've been around all week, and I'm sure they'll be around now. They took all the weapons out of the clubhouse, which were incidentally all legal, and I'm sure they'll be watching to find out what type of weapons or where we go to replace the weapons that they took, hoping that possibly we might bring some illegal weapons in there, which won't happen.
They start relating these stories that, the Lake Casitas is very close to here. I don't know if you've been by it yet since on your trips up here. Probably about 15 minutes from the Hells Angels clubhouse. And they were telling the merchants that we were going to supply weapons for terrorists on the water events. And that's where they were taking place at the Olympics in 1984. And it was ludicrous. And I started thinking, we got to get out in front of this. We got to control the narrative. If the public starts thinking we're supporting terrorism, I mean, to me, that was, suicide. And I started petitioning people and, a lot of closed ears, who gives a shit, what people think we're the Hells Angels. And, I said, well, these are the people that make up the juries that are going to be finding us guilty or not guilty of the crimes we did, or better yet, didn't do. So I said, we need to start thinking about this. And, I convinced some key players in it. And one of the few things Sonny and I probably agreed on, maybe one of the last things we agreed on, was that we should get out in front of this. And the club, I'm the one that brought it up, and I think it was unwritten, but the club expected me to resolve it. Then it's your problem, you fix it, And that's what I did. I started exploring different ways to make a statement somehow. And Tiny from San Fernando Valley, who, as you would imagine, a name like Tiny, he's 6'6", 380 pounds. Him and I came up with some different thoughts, and we came up with the idea to carry the torch in a leg of the torch relay. You could carry the torch for 1 kilometer if you were a business and you made a donation. So we took it upon ourselves. We explored that idea, took it back to the club. A lot of, you ought to give a shit about this, because I'm telling you, terrorism is something in the future that is going to be really controversial. And I said, we don't want anything to do with it. In fact, I brought it up at several meetings over the years. Anybody caught doing any business with an official terrorist group, automatic kick out, no question about it. We don't need to associate with terrorists. And, that's a whole different story. We'll talk about that another time. But getting back on this, I finally convinced them that it was something we needed to do. I thought, okay, we're going to apply. And I knew we had to control the narrative. So got a hold of a reporter from the LA Times, a gal named Clara Spiegel. She had done a previous story on the Hells Angels, and it was good. And I thought, we can get some support from this girl. So we applied for the torch relay leg. We had to donate $3,000, and we had to name our company. So I put HAMCUS, HAMCUS. So we became the HAMCUS company. And so Clara Spiegel goes over to the torch relay board, and she said, "Are you going to allow HAMCUS to participate?" They're like, "Well, anybody can participate. They pay the fee and apply. They'll participate." And she said, "Well, you know who HAMCUS is?" And they said, "No, who's HAMCUS?" Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, United States. And they stopped the interview, and they go, "Oh man, oh no," And so they went and had like an impromptu meeting, voted on the spot to allow us, came back, told Claire, "We're going to allow the Hells Angels." So we were waiting outside. They didn't know this. And Claire walks out, and "You've been accepted to, carry the torch." And then it just snowballed from there. It was out of control.
It's going around that somehow we might want to cause a problem at the Olympics, which is it's ludicrous. We're not opposed to the Olympics. We support the Olympics.
35-year-old Christie has been a member of the Hells Angels for 10 years. He is now the president of the Ventura Club. Christie says a lot of people have the wrong idea about the Hells Angels. He, for one, is into clean living.
I don't drink either, but I drink protein and all that jazz.
Like other members of the Hells Angels, Christie goes on 4 or 5 motorcycle rides with the club every year. But he also has a few hobbies that might surprise people, like running 5 miles a day.
Yes, I run, but that, you can be a Hells Angel and run. You can be a Hells Angel and swim, or whatever you want to do.
Christie's running is one reason he was chosen by the National Hells Angel organization to represent the membership this summer. But Christie is not trying to change the Hells Angels' outlaw reputation. As he puts it, "I don't want to get respectable. I just want respect." In Ventura, I'm Laura Zimmerman for KCOY TV 12 News.
Now, Christie has been getting calls from all over the country since the word went out about his Olympic involvement. People magazine, the New York Times, the LA Times, and others all want to hear his story.
And we got the story right here.
And, Sonny had his throat surgery, and he had kind of acquiesced to me and a fellow named Irish O'Farrell as spokespeople for the club. So I started, since I was carrying the torch, I was doing all the publicity. And we got into a running battle with law enforcement. And I was playing hardball with them. They were playing hardball with me. And I guess the last statement I made concerning the Olympics was how ironic it was that the only incident at the Los Angeles Olympics was a bomb planted and then found by a sheriff from the LAPD. I don't know if you recall that. And the cops went crazy. You know, they actually sent someone down that I knew, had a relationship with. It was a friend of mine. He said, "George, you're playing hard. You're playing too hard." And I said, "Well, I play hardball, man." And they said, "Well, you need to lower the rhetoric." And I basically said, "Oh, tell them to go fuck themselves." You know, the day of the torch run, we blocked the street off, and we were allowing the press to come down there, but it was a madhouse. You know, it's like I showed up down there to get ready to go carry the torch, and I'm swamped by photographers flashing. It looked like something paparazzi's out of a movie. And some of the guys they're laughing. They think it's funny. Some of the guys are pissed off because we're being exposed too much. Now, right next to me was Irish O'Farrell, who was a real Oakland legend. He was murdered in the early '90s, late '80s. The dates are all hard to put together. So him and I are leading this pack. And this is the longest pack we've ever been in. Irish and I are just like looking at each other. This is incredible, man. And there's a helicopter circling. They're taking pictures. You know how the helicopters do that. And the highway patrol's out there, and I look at Irish. I go, "Well, shall we?" And he goes, "Let's do it, man." And we kick our bikes into gear, and then this pack just follows us, and we go right up Main Street, out California Street, and then get on the freeway. And the highway patrol's got the freeway blocked off for us, man. There's so many bikes, and you can't see the back of the pack. And I'm looking at Irish, and I mean, we've been the bad guys, man. Now we're some kind of American heroes or something. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to put a handle on it. It just is what it is. And we turn off the freeway, and there's American flags down Los Posas Road, and they're leaned in, and it looks like a tunnel. And I've got some pictures of it. It looks like a tunnel of American flags. And we stop. We let the pack catch up, and we're just taking in the moment. And I look at Irish, and I look in front of us, and there's a sign there with a group of people, and it says, "Citizens salute the Hells Angels." And I looked at Irish, and I go, "What do you think?" And he goes, "Man, I got goosebumps in the back of my neck." And I go, "You ready?" And he goes, "Yeah." And we kicked it in gear, and we went down this, what felt like a tunnel of these American flags. And we get down to where our section is, and the FBI's there, and security, and there's helicopters circling everywhere. And this is my kilometer of the run. So we park all the bikes, and, we get off, and I strip down to my, torch uniform, and the FBI agents come up, and they go, "There's been some death threats, so we're going to run with you." So there's some pictures of me running the torch, and there's two square-looking people. One's a woman and one's a guy, and they were FBI agents. And the John Birch Society was upset because why is the Hells Angels getting the opportunity to carry the American flag? They're a bunch of goddamn commie outlaws, And so I got my security is the FBI. And, of course, I got my own guys. That's my security. So I'm there, and I'm getting all excited, and the cameras are clicking, and Hells Angels are everywhere. And then here comes the flame. I've got my torch, and it's all set to go. And you tip them like this. I should have brought the torch with me today. So the torch tip, and the flames pass to my torch. And man, feeling like I could conquer the world. And I start running, and I get to the end of the kilometer. Now, what you have to understand, initially, there was a woman that I was supposed to pass the flame to. And somebody somewhere said, Christie's not going to pass the flame to the woman because these guys are male chauvinists. So they switched the woman and they put a guy in the place. So I would be sure to pass the flame, which was total bullshit. But I will tell you this, and it's a memory I've never forgotten. I passed the flame to him, and then they extinguish your flame and the flame goes on. And here I am, everyone's surrounding me. There's little American flags. People are having me sign flags, people taking pictures, people standing there like an instant celebrity. And I look off out of the corner of my eye. Pretty emotional. And here's this guy by himself, nobody cheering him, nobody doing anything for him. And he's carrying that torch on and passing it to that woman. And I was tripping. I was going, man, I hope everybody didn't lose the essence of what the Olympics and all this are all about. I mean, the Olympics were important to me. I mean, they were to initiate peace and understanding and different cultures and whatnot. And I think that a lot of people, they missed the whole point of where I was coming from, But I'll never forget that. Now I've composed myself. I'll never forget that guy by himself, no cameras, nobody cheering him on, just doing it, And I was thinking, maybe that's the way I should have done it. When I got indicted in 1986, I was in the general population of the prison, and some really funny comedians in prison, man. I don't know. They may be criminals, but they got a sense of humor about them. And they open the door, and I walk into a sally port that's like a dead man's area. And they shut the door. And then on the other side is the prison. It's my entrance into the prison. It sounds incredible. I've never told this story before. The sally port slides open. There's got to be 100 prisoners there waiting, and they're all applauding me. And in front of them is Guy Castellone. He's a president of a serious guy. He's down there for murdering 2 Mongols, shot them off their bikes on the freeway. And somehow the lawyer, things are different back then. He got 4 years for that. So him and I are doing time together, and he goes, yeah, we've been waiting for you, man. And then one of the guys off to the side goes, well, looks like that torch finally ran out of light, huh? Or something to that effect, Everybody starts laughing, And what's interesting is since O.J. Simpson and I have something in common. We were both carried the torch, and we were both tried for murder. I don't know if that's something to be proud of, but it's a little footnote. And you wanted some trivia? I'm giving you some trivia, man. So the Jews ain't got nothing on me.
I may go from town to town, but nobody's on my track. People, they got my back. Coming back one morning just to make sure everything's all right, because I'm a wanted man. Oh, yeah.
The group left the local clubhouse in formation, headed toward the event that would make Hell's Angels history. At the site, Christie took off with the crowd's approval. By the end of the run, George Christie was a star, with people wanting to meet the man who had carried the torch.
His mother and I are very proud of him. Even as a Hells Angel, we're proud of him.
For Christie and the other Hells Angels, it was a moment of positive attention, with a chance to sample some real Olympic glory.
Yeah, USA, far out.